I'll introduce myself. My name is Nancy Wilson. I am the founder and CEO of the Canadian Women's Chamber of Commerce, where we are the only Chamber of Commerce in Canada that represents and advocates for women identified and non-binary entrepreneurs, founders, and business owners in Canada. And I'm so pleased to co-present this panel with the Organization for Women in International Trade, or OIT. And this panel is called Force Majeure, Women and Export in COVID rather. So I am responsible for the panel, for better or worse, and you know, the reason why I chose the name of the panel is really in reference to that legal term, that clause that you see in contracts that gives people an out from breach of contract issues resulting from something like COVID. A national emergency, some unexpected situation that comes about that is really out of anybody's control. I'll introduce the panelists very quickly, and then we'll just we have a short time, so I want to go right into questions. So Sarah Baldeo is a Chamber of Commerce member with us, and I'm very happy to see her here. She is the president and global CEO of ID Quotient Advisory Group. I am not 100% sure exactly what she does, because she has very, very high level degrees in neuroscience, etc. So I won't try to get too deep into what she does, but I do encourage you to connect with Sarah and have a chat with her. Her work is fascinating. Helen Hemmingson is with us. She is a board member with OIT Toronto. She also has a consulting and advisory firm called Hemmingson Consultancy and Advisory for many years, and provides her expertise to all businesses around international trade. So she has that expertise that she can share with us today on the panel. I will ask the first question to Sarah. It's a pretty broad question, but Sarah, so how did COVID impact your business overall, but in particular your export strategy?
So interestingly enough, ID Quotient Advisory Group actually does what's called procurement compliance and medical efficacy audits for medical supply and PPE. So definitely very relevant to what we do, because we've now been through 4 pandemics. This is the most interesting one yet. COVID in particular, I think we've seen the greatest proliferation of fraud ever before. So what has occurred is there's fraud with sellers of PPE, and there's fraud with buyers of PPE. So because of the work that a lot of my group has done in privacy, compliance, and due diligence, we've really stepped up the kinds of due diligence searches we do on suppliers and buyers, which includes things like an Office of Foreign Assets Control search, a corporation profile, a statement of claim search. So if you're looking at people that you're going to contract with, a really important suggestion is, do they have judgments filed against them for not paying their contractual obligation? Another recommendation I have, which I am so thankful for having a chief legal officer to tell me to do this, is that if you look at the force majeure clauses, it covers acts of God. It covers things like hurricanes and tornadoes. Cover performance clause. So what we've seen is there's a lot of suppliers that will say, hey, IDQ, book $1 million charter with an Antonov plane. plane shows up at the port of Cat Lai, and suddenly there's no product. When we have a fiscal non-performance clause built into a contractual obligation outside of force majeure, that means that if that situation occurs, the money for non-performance goes into escrow. And not only will we don't want to be chasing anyone for fiscal non-performance. We're Canadians. I am. So I try not to be litigious, but really best practice I would always recommend is when you do have a fiscal non-performance clause, try to put those funds into escrow with a third party like JP Morgan, and then both seller and buyer have funds in there in case something does happen. And it's that much easier to collect and not impede your economic relations. So I would say it's non-performance clauses, it's due diligence, and it's really looking at things like, depending on the type of product, if you need a medical device license, start doing audits on product to make sure they're not counterfeit. Because there's a lot of, especially in the medical supply space right now, there's a lot of medical counterfeit issues. That's a lot of information, but it's really, really helped me and my firm to protect ourselves.
Right. Okay. That sounds like a lot of new learning for businesses, and certainly applicable in the recovery period, as well as people have to get PPE equipment in place. Okay, Helen, are you? Can you respond to the question? I'll repeat the question. I mean, how the question was, how did COVID sort of impact your business overall, but very specifically the export strategy? You can answer this in terms of your own consultancy business, okay, or in reference to some of the clients that that you've worked with, perhaps.
Okay, I'll just answer this question from my own consultancy. I am an exporter, and I do need to remind myself every now and again that I am an exporter. I do business services, and I help companies and government agencies who are looking to get into the Canadian market. I'd say about 90% of my clientele are overseas. And initially, I was totally distraught when COVID hit. I just didn't know how I'd survive over the next couple of months, and I think we were all overwhelmed by it. But there's some snakes and some ladders, and I've had a couple of really good ladders recently, and I continue to promote the value of market research. This is usually done in advance of any visits to Canada. But I was going to work on a number of trade missions, which got canceled because people can't visit. But what I promote now is the value of doing market research. It's a good time for companies to focus on desk research and evaluate different markets. And this is something that I find with companies that always goes on the back burner. They'll look at Canada and then they'll go to the back burner. And I think it's a great time now for companies to do this investigation, because it's on the front burner, and it's good to figure out what your USPs are and your competition, and which markets are the best for you. And also, it's really important for companies to look into where the best sources are for their funding and support. There's a lot of money out there for companies looking to export. Make best friends with your trade commissioners at Global Affairs Canada and the Ontario government. They're there to help you. They will hold your hand. They will guide you. They will get you export ready. They will help you develop the capability so that you are export ready. And that's it.
Great advice. So then what follows is what changes have you made, or do you plan on making in the months ahead in terms of your export strategy or your business strategy overall? Sarah?
Well, one of the really big things we've done specifically because of so IDQ is built out into technology consulting, risk compliance and regulatory compliance, and then medical supply. So when we talk about import or export, one of the changes we've made is we've really beefed up our logistics team. So our logistics team focuses on port to port, door to door transportation. And one of the things that helps us to do is to keep a line of sight on the chain of custody of product at any given time. So there's a really cool technology that we've started using, particularly because a lot of sea containers have suddenly started showing up empty, specifically when they're high value loads. The type of technology is called ICL, so it's EYE-CSEAL. And what it allows us to do is not only track shipping containers, but it also allows us to determine when did the door of the shipping container close and when did it open. Specifically, that's been part of our risk mitigation strategy for export, because there's been a lot of shipping containers showing up at Long Beach and LAX that are totally empty for billions of dollars of medical supplies and equipment. So that's number one. It's been GPS tracking, ICL technology. And then we decided that we were going to find a brilliant SVP of logistics that has a network of relationships with the World Cargo Association. So we realized, it's gotten to the point now where we really do need to have boots on the ground at every port authority, whether it's in Europe or if it's in Asia Pacific. And then the last piece of advice, which I learned the hard way, is that typically peak season starts around October, which is the peak season for the Christmas holidays and export and all the wonderful things that are coming from all over the world. Because of COVID, peak season is now, as opposed to October. And I have learned that if I'm booking an Antonov or a 747 or a 777, there's not a magical amount of planes available. I really need to level set expectations with clients as to, okay, well, whatever it is they are looking to export or import, whatever the case may be, that they need to really be realistic on air freight and sea freight and the cost. So it's not only what is at any given place at any given time, how quickly can it arrive? And specifically in export, there's been a lot of fraudulent entrants who say they can move billions of boxes of XYZ within 24 hours. And I only surmise that they obviously have, Star Trek transporters. So I've learned to really level set expectations, book charters early, and as I said, trust my logistics team when they tell me, listen, Sarah, it just can't be done. So that's kind of how we've changed our export strategy and tried to be proactive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Helen, I'm wondering, I'll modify the question a little bit because of your involvement in OIT, the Toronto chapter of OIT. What would you say to the challenge that that we face, and I say we as sort of organizations that are working to support and help women identified entrepreneurs grow their businesses and look at export as a pathway to growth, to try to say to entrepreneurs or business owners that now have gone through COVID, and export seems like a bit of a hard sell. I mean, business growth and starting and building your business is hard enough, and now we're saying, what about export after this? All of this has happened. What what do you say about export in the post-COVID world?
Well, thank you for that. I guess, exporting is really tough. It's a lot of work and you have to keep at it. And I think it's really easy to get discouraged because it is so much work and you have to really just be focused on the markets that are of interest to you. And I think it's a real challenge for companies because they may not have the resources or the time to dedicate to being export ready or to export your products. So I can really understand the challenge of companies who are being told that they can get into these markets and it's going to be an area of growth for them. But I would just encourage people to keep with it and find a really good partner for you in your local or your overseas market. If you can find somebody who can work with you and help you get into the market, it's going to be a win-win for both people, both companies. But speaking from an OIT perspective, we used to do a lot of educational seminars that were real life, but we've recently converted to virtual, as many companies and organizations are doing. And we find that we're thriving on it. Our membership is on the increase. We have more events than ever. We've had really great partnerships with Global Affairs and the Women's Entrepreneurship Enterprise Knowledge Hub, the Hub. And we've hosted 2 events on CUSMA and CETA where we had speakers talk about specific markets that were really good for women entrepreneurs. So I would encourage you to have a look at our website and get a hold of those webinars to have a review of them because there's a lot of really good information on them. And I was just going to say, we have an upcoming webinar on digital transformation that may be of interest to some of the attendees today. And we're also hosting a webinar on opportunities in the Middle East and North Africa. This will be in early 2021. And again, it'll be focused on women entrepreneurs. We are planning a virtual export awards honoring outstanding women in international trade. We usually do that live, but we're gonna grab something and try to do something virtual towards November. This is something really new to us and we're looking forward to it. So watch the website for details on this. And we're also looking for nominations for Outstanding Women, Exporter, Outstanding Leader, and Outstanding Students. So please email me with any nominations or any questions about this. And I think that's it for me.
That's great. That sounds fantastic. So, so the last question I have is a bit it is pretty open-ended, and it's really asking you again. And sorry, I'm stumbling over this because you have both given a lot of advice in your answers already. And so the last question is, what advice would you give to other women identified entrepreneurs who are developing an export strategy, given this past experience? But maybe maybe I'll modify the question a little bit and put you guys on the hot seat yet again, and ask, what do you think some of the tools are going to be? I mean, everybody is all about digital now. Do you see the future of export as really embracing digital? I mean, the idea of virtual trade missions, breaking through that barrier for women, let's say, so that they don't have to incur the costs to actually travel to make those connections. I'll, instead of rambling, I'll turn it over to you. And what is the future of export post COVID? That's my question. Helen, do you want to start? Or pass?
I don't know what to say about virtual trade missions. Years ago, I used to work in sustainable construction and energy, and I tried to encourage companies to come to Canada, and they said, "Oh my God, we don't fly anywhere. We're trying to reduce our impact on the economy and be net zero." And I thought, "Oh my God, how do you do a trade mission then?" But I think there's a lot of platforms out there, and you have to try them and see which ones work. And but I think there's a lot of value in meeting people on a personal basis and seeing if you sync and if you have similar personalities, or if you gel with this person who is going to be your potential agent or your distributor. So I don't know how to get around not being able to do things in person. I think in the past we've really emphasized doing trade missions. I don't know, Sarah, if you have any.
So one of the things that IDQ does really, really well, but I think is such a new space, is, to your point, Nancy, it's the digital space and digital transformation for everybody. Everybody's transforming, whether it's the banking sector or the export sector or the trade sector. We're all moving towards this, there's remote work, there's digital, there's we can't physically see each other. One of the things when I talked about fraud and identity verification is understanding the huge part that digital identity verification plays in export. So much of the time, I find that my team is dealing with people they've never met for these 9-figure transactions, which is really scary. That's a really, really scary thing. How do you know these people? How can you trust somebody with your information? So I think, the future of export is very much predicated upon digital identity verification and what is known as the KYC space, which is the know your customer space. Whether you're using artificial intelligence to do that, whether you're asking for what is called KYC capability statements from suppliers or buyers, when you're looking at managing partners of organizations, because IDQ knows so much about due diligence and we try our best to do it. Believe me, we'll sometimes run due diligence on companies and they turn out to be entirely fabricated. And they seem to be the most legitimate individuals, but because of COVID, there's that element of, well, we kind of have to do our best with due diligence, do our digital identity verification, look at KYC documents at passports, like passports. And I really encourage people to encourage your buyers and suppliers to validate their identity in real time. So if you're signing a contract, obviously password protect your documents. If you're purchasing something and someone's asking you for a proof of funds, password protect to the nth degree. Try to use things like RSA tokens. Don't just send documents where you don't know who's taking it and what they're doing with it. And when you are trying to do a KYC process via digital identity verification for a purchaser or a seller, try to use, there's a lot of very cool tools that use facial recognition. They use optical character recognition. You can look at someone's ID. You can actually tell based on the barcode. Unfortunately, I'll tell you this just from experience, not myself having fake IDs, but I've seen people do it before. It's very easy to fake the front of an ID, not so easy to fake a barcode. So if you're using a digital identity verification tool. There's a wonderful company that I would recommend, and this is not a plug by any means, but it's called Jumio, and they do digital identity verification for KYC, where you can, in real time, validate that a person's ID is real, that the barcode is encrypted, and that it matches the front of the ID, and that their face is their face. It's not a photo of a photo, that they're blinking, that they're alive. So these types of things in the remote world of the export strategy and digital identity verification are very cool, very new, very much about AI and you know, that whole artificial intelligence space. But it really comes down to, I think, as Helen alluded to, getting to know the people you're doing business with, which is really the crux of the matter. And the kernel of it is, how do I know who I'm dealing with when I'm dealing with an export strategy? And sadly, we don't know. So I think that that's how the digital identity verification really kind of helps us all to feel a little bit more safer, that we're not being catfished at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, that's great stuff. So, sorry, Helen, did you want to say something? You're muted.
I'm muted. I just wanted to say that we're having a digitization webinar in September, and we're going to be talking about a new matchmaking service for women entrepreneurs, and we will have an exclusive offer to OWIT members. So keep an eye on our website to find out when this event is happening, and this matchmaking service can help you overcome, I guess, any fears and concerns you may have about reaching out to new partners, and it'll offer you opportunities as well. So thank you for letting me do that little plug.
No problem. Yeah, I'll my own plug is learn more about the Canadian Women's Chamber of Commerce at canwcc.ca. Thank you so much to my guests, and thank you to everyone watching. I hope you enjoyed the panel, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the sessions.
Thank you for this opportunity. Well, thank you, Nancy.
Yes.
Thank you, Nancy. All right. Thank you, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.